These things skid across so easily because the car is just so light. And now I got to talk a little bit louder and a little bit more directing in there because of that. Front end adjustments, you should have this whole setup still with yours, but I don't know what I need to adjust it at. So make sure you ask Chris what the adjustment on the front end should be. The way Hugh had it at the beginning, I was wearing the outside of the tire, and I've just been moving it in slowly, trying to make it an even run. Let's go to the radiator. Oh wait, brake lines. Standard midget brake lines are too short. You need about a 15-inch, 16-inch brake line. I just got those steel ones, you know that. Let's go to the radiator now. Two things I would do, definitely. I made these little makeshift, they're just out of a waste paper basket type stuff, to direct air through the little bitty hole in the front right into the radiator, since the radiator slopes. Makes a heck of a difference on cooling when you're riding along. I also put this plate in here, which when the air comes through here, instead of hitting the radiator or going down, it has nowhere else to go but through the radiator. It seems to work really nice. And what I would do, I would also make it even more real like a Lotus 11 if I could, and continue this all the way across here, all the way back here, and try to isolate the radiator from the rest of the engine bay, and actually put a piece of aluminum right here. You might have to punch a couple holes in it for the pipes coming through, or for the oil cooler if it goes through the other side. But that way all this hot air will go down underneath the car instead of coming right back on the engine. You use this on some things. It's, you know, just that aluminum pipe. It works really nice, and especially if you could bend it a little bit. This used to come way down here and do Y's and U's and W's and finally come back up to here. If I had one nice long, you know, with a gentle bend right here, and have very small amounts of rubber hose, and one aluminum pipe all the way to this one, and I could have done the same thing here, but I didn't. Definitely do some type of fender skirt, because the first time you get in the rain, the water goes right to the carburetor. I would, instead of just riveting them to it like I did, I would try to make a one-piece fit right here and use thumb screws, maybe about 3 at the bottom and 2 or 3 here. That just allows you to be able to take that off and be able to really work in this area easily without bumping that around. You could go to all the effort and fiberglass these in to the hood, but I think that's more work than it's worth. My U-joints on the steering were bumping right at the beginning. Remember how it grab? And it was all because of the rack. I mean the steering rack was turned down somewhat, and so it jammed the U-joint back there. It should come straight out, and you have plenty of room to go and throw in a couple U-joints, or U-joints in here to put it in there. Let me shut off. Got the hood off here. A couple things you want to watch. In fact, when you order stuff from Chris, go ahead and order me 2 new lens covers here. Mine have quite a few scratches on because, remember, at the beginning no one knew that it rolled over on its front. So I got a couple scratches on both mine. I've had mine off 2 or 3 times. All the screws, I put a couple extra screws in here compared to what he had. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, and I put the 4 extra ones to hold it a little bit more flush, thinking that it would seal it better. Well, I've screwed this down a few times too tight, and I've gotten spider webs on the plexiglass. Tighten them snug, and then use silicone seal, and it seals it very nicely. Underneath, it flexes here a lot, and what I would do is put underneath, put a new coat of another piece of glass underneath to reinforce here and on this side. And I've just noticed too that I'm now starting to get some spider webs right in here. That could have very easily been because I hit a bird or something, I don't know. But it'd be easy to fill this in just to give it a little bit more structure. Let me turn it around. I've had no problems with these coming loose out of the fiberglass. And maybe that might be some of the reason why that area up there, like on the other side, is starting the spider web, because of this being flexing and bouncing around. Make sure you get the inner tube rubber bands, cut out a rubber band and wrap it around here, and it'll keep that from bouncing and making noise. It'll hold it down a lot firmer. The headlights, it's a regular seal beam, so you don't need anything fancy back here. In fact, the tire is within probably about a ½ inch of this area. So I've had to silicone seal it down to keep the wires away from the tire. What I would do is put a hole right here at the bottom and run the lines straight up there. And now you have a flat plate which is against the tire. Plus the tire's throwing everything right up here. If the hole's in the bottom, it's less likely to leak. And that's where I get some of the water inside mine. I've had to silicone all the screws all the way around too. I guess that's it.
Go.
Also, I've noticed both on the front and rear, right in this area, rocks are banging against this area. Take one sheet of fiberglass and just glue it right there. And that's just a little bit of a bash pad for rocks coming through here so it doesn't show out here. This area on the front, I don't see any flexing along here. In the rear, there's quite a bit. So you'll see later when we get to the rear where I would put an extra piece of pad, because it just sits there and just does this. Okay, one thing you might have problems if you have safety inspections in Pennsylvania is the headlight height. You're just going to have to find someone that will ignore the headlight height. I know in Texas it's supposed to be 24 inches high. They aren't 24 inches high, and I've got it passed every so often. Every time. On the hood also. Here's where the springs attach, on both sides. But I would also put a little plate through here, or maybe attached there, it comes straight up and flips over. Put a Zeus fastener right here and on each corner. Because as you pass a truck or you get wind underneath it, the whole front end flexes and pops up. I've seen it come up about an inch or two just because of a wind pop. And that would also help the flexion. Keep it from spider webbing quite as easy. As far as the engine bay would go, if I had to do mine over again, there'd be one thing I'd do is I'd put as much underplating aluminum under the engine as possible. Leave a hole for the oil filter so I could, like a dollar panel on the plane, be able to get underneath and unscrew it and drop that straight down. But completely enclose the bottom. It wouldn't be any problem. I'd use screws there, that way I could take it out easier. And like I said, I would also close this off, making it a separate case, and let all the air come through the radiator and go down, and that way the hot air doesn't come back here. As far as getting cool air to the carburetor, you'll see in the 11 book there's a lot of little cold air boxes that have a little scoop here. Well, I know you don't like it any more than I do, but I had put basic dryer hose. I had it opened up, cut up, so I could just lay it over here, and then I tied it up all the way to here. In fact, I had it going right down to where my pedals go in, where there's holes here. And I could actually feel cool air on my feet when I was driving along. So sitting right here, you get lots of cool air, and since it's long enough, you don't have to worry about water going right into the carburetor. hardest problem I've had is being able to build something to go underneath the air cleaner and to fit right in this area. It'd absolutely be perfect if you could just build a little metal plate that went just right like this. Okay. These already probably come with your little car. That's okay. You know, if they work, they work. I wouldn't complain about them. I would rather had a better brake system than what this one is. The pedals I actually had to take out and bend so they'd fit my feet right, because remember, I couldn't get my foot past the clutch pedal to let it relax. It was very annoying, but they come out pretty easy. I mean, you'll be able to do it because they're already out anyway. And just keep playing with it. You just have to stand on your head inside there about 4 times to do it. If you have the wiring harness on there, what's going to happen is this gauge right here is going to be your oil pressure. This one's going to be your fuel. And I switched the two just because I want to be able to see my water temperature and oil pressure more than my fuel. And it barely fits. In other words, as it comes out this line, I had to cut back some of the black to be able to reach all the way over here. I put a push button in. You know, the key turns it on, push button start. This used to be the fan switch that would turn on the electric fan for the radiator, and I put a thermostat in the hose so it automatically comes on at about 85 degrees, which in town it'll hold 85 without any problem, and usually it's a little bit less than that going on the road. Basic weather stripping, rubber padding. I put that on there just so the scuttle pushes down on it and it doesn't bang around and make a bunch of noise. Here's where you could probably do a lot of neat stuff to really make yours better. Get some, what is it, PVC pipe, the plastic piping. You got good elbows on everything. You need to put a hole right here, and you can put a hole right here, and duct it and have it come right along here to where you know you get cool air. Or for that matter, it could be just coming right out to this point, just so you get some air. This actually, you get a good rush of air. It wouldn't be in the way of anything, and you can remove it fairly easy. What a difference it makes to be able to have cool air. And then, in the wintertime, or when it gets cold, all you need is a little screw-on cap, and you can go, whoop, and you screw on the cap. And in the summertime, you always want it open, so just screw it off and leave the cap at home. There was something else I was going to say too. But, and the battery could be moved somewhere else. You could put it in the back if you wanted to, like he had it initially. But there should be enough room in here. It doesn't look like it'd be hitting anything by lengthening this foot box by a couple inches. Now you might have to squeeze it down, narrow it down, about an inch or so, but it'd make a heck of a difference for the passenger inside, because he can stretch his legs out now, and it makes a heck of a difference. And I would really look at it hard and try to lengthen this at least 2 inches. And you can, I think, squish everything around there without any problem with that 2-inch extension. Okay, shut off a second. Okay.
Wait, it says caution.
Caution?
Yes, it says caution.
What else does it say?
Caution.
Is it running?
Some core, I guess.
I don't know what that was. Okay, as far as this right here, this is MG midget. But let me tell you a secret. If you get MGB, it'll fit on this side. A lot more room for your leg over here for when you're having to bend your knee to hit the gas pedal. So if you get an MGB, it'll do the exact same thing except sit on this side. And that shouldn't be too hard to find in the junkyard. As far as, remember I cut this off by about 2 inches, made it nice and low. As far as the seats go, these I had made, just a piece of wood on the back, and what is about 2 inches of foam, fairly easy. that is the right height. I mean the right distance from the back. Now the way you could make this maybe a little bit better is add an extension along here so it actually fits back here on this side. You know, you can put a piece of Velcro back here and then hold it back. That way it gives you a little bit more padding on your shoulders, and that's on both sides. The height is right though. That's good. When these were built, I had this seat built. And you notice it actually goes this way, and the intent was it lays flat, it allows your legs to rest on here while your butt's back here. Well, I find that this is just not comfortable because your back, you know, fits like this, and there's a gap here, and you can't tighten everything down unless you're sitting straight up, and then you're sitting up too high in the cockpit. And I've been playing with this, you know, ever since I've had the car. These are seat spacers or parachute spacers, you know, in the 38. It's a very hard, not very hard, but I mean it's a very firm rubber. And I thought I had two of them there. This would be absolutely perfect for a seat. And if you have the seat, it's kind of hard to show this, but if you had the back of the seat come down here, and then part of this went up like this, about double thickness. This way, this part fits into the small of your back, so you're leaning down a little bit more instead of just sitting straight up. So it fills in the back, and then these would go under your legs, so it actually fits right here. So you get some pressure here, you get the small of the back. As I tried to tighten these seat belts down, without a pad back here, it just, you know, and I wanted to get down low enough, it just didn't work. And for your seating height, since you're a little bit smaller, play with it with the windshield on, and if you can see maybe an inch above the top of the windshield is all you need. And if you drive around, you shouldn't have anything more than just hitting the top of the head of air. It should not hit right at the eye level, because that's where it gets more irritated, and then you'll start crouching down, and then it's uncomfortable. Seat belts. This is the one that was cut out on the move over. I went ahead and got just ordered it from Rip Speed, and it was they got here in a couple weeks without any problem. Okay. All right, a little bit more back on the engine. Piece of aluminum. You can get the nice polished aluminum. Remember, we put the asbestos on the side. Slides right under here. You have to bend it and make it look a little bit squirrely, but it really does make a heck of a difference. Oh, that's nice. Want to cut? On how much heat is underneath the float bowls right here. The standard intake for a Weber carburetor, I believe, goes does a little bit of a gooseneck here and makes that too high. That right there touches the roof or the bottom. So I had to actually smash this down. So it is that high. So anything above that height, you're going to have a bulge, or you're going to have to do something different. Like I said on the phone, I would get a Mikuni, the new Mikuni carburetors, and see if they have a good intake system that'll fit on that. This is a Fast Road cam. It's a Kent Fast Road cam. A big valve head, which is just a Mini Cooper head. And I think that is all that I've done weird with this. And like I said, when the carburetor was tuned up, the guy said it had 76 horsepower at the crank. Or, sorry, at the rear wheels, which is probably about 90 out of the crank. But I would try not to use a Weber if at all possible, because it's ancient. You know, it's nice, but the only way to adjust it is with the 14,000 different jets they have. There's no screw adjustments at all. And the Mikuni is the modern type. Okay, shut off. Yeah. Okay. Okay, now we're in the rear end. Oh, you think? Well, here's what we got. Here's the original bushings that go into the parallel links. It's rubber here, it wears out very nice and easy, and they also are $8 a piece from Chris. Kind of a rip-off. You can buy an aftermarket thing at any speed and sport type shop, which is a polyurethane. You can see it flexes somewhat. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit bigger, but I think you could easily shave it down and probably squish it in there in the parallel links without any problem. But I was told by somebody else, and I'll have to find out where the actual name of this is. I think it's called Duracell. It's a plastic, what is it, acetyl, you think? Acetyl rod.
And it's an eel control.
Control number. It looks like 5E17CW. And it's a little bit, I mean, it's almost like a plastic rod. Yes, it's going to make the rear end a lot tighter. I mean, it'll jar more. But right now, I've already gone through 6 bushings back here, and the rear end is already starting to flex again. I don't think that has anything to do with how I drive the car, though. I think it's just bad bushings. But
right.
These might work very nicely, and you probably could even shave these down without any problem at all. So, I would think about doing that maybe right off the bat, unless they're already in there, and then you can just play with them until they start wearing out. I put these on. All of this is just basic metal. I screwed them, tapped in here to screw in. You have to kind of bend to form them down in here. As you well know, water will come right over here and go right down here if you don't have these on here. And I just had to fit it all the way in here, and it works out pretty good. And you might remember my piece of wood here to push this out. Now that's something you could do different also, is you could reinforce this whole back area better. And going to the junkyard, this is just the like trunk sealer, just ripped off, fits right there, and it's sealed very nicely on the interior. And you can see the line where it seals very nicely. This is where I would put extra fiberglass so it doesn't chip on the outside. Here's a little rubbers I put on here, keeps the rear end from bouncing around. You can hear it clank fairly easy if you don't have that on there. I don't know if you can see this or not, but there's these metal plates here. I cut these out and just screwed them in there with 3 screws because this whole rod was breaking loose out of the fiberglass of how they put it on there. Actually, they embedded metal and fiberglass on top of it, and it rusted so quick it was unbelievable. So this is just your basic aluminum, flipped over there, banged to fit the round pole, and really from the rear end you can hardly tell it's there because they only stick up about this much on the back end, an inch or 2. The jack, just went to a junkyard and found me something like a little Toyota or something, Datsun, those expanded scissor type jack. Fits right under here, snug fit, but it fits very nicely. And you can see the little U bracket that they jerry-rigged to fit in here. Here's one thing you might have to get. This is a windshield wiper. And let me show you. Just turn the camera around and right on the windshield here. Since I had a windshield, I had to have a windshield wiper. This is a boat windshield wiper that I had to cut off to make it fit here. When I went to get my inspection, I called the people and they said all it has to be is manually or electric from the inside of the car. So I bolted it in like this, and guess what? I got a windshield wiper. I went through the inspection, passed it, I take it off, I put it in the back, and some in the back, and I'll show you where it is. Speaking of windshields, do not, in fact, there'd be only 2 things I'd use on this windshield. Oil sperm or wax. And do not use anything but a cloth rag to clean it. Because if you use paper, if you use a bug scraper or anything, you're going to scratch it fairly easy. So only cloth, and in fact, I would just clean it with wax and that's all. You know, that'll get if you've got a good coat of wax on, the bugs will come off easy. But don't use paper or those bug scrapers. That's how I scratched mine the first time pretty hard. When the rock went through mine, I had a hole about like this right over here. Went on very easy. I haven't silicone sealed, but you need the silicone seal all along in here. And you needed the, used to have brass ones, and I went ahead and put our aluminum ones in here. Why don't we just wait 1 minute? Okay. Remember I said reinforce inside for the rocks and for the side here. You might be able to see the spider webs all along here, all the way up to here, here, and all along back here. And it's just because this thing is getting beat up with, I mean, it's just sitting here flexing very easily. So I would just go ahead and put a heavy-duty reinforcement along in the back there. Also, this area right here, I kind of made a mistake by not putting a pad right up here where these screws are. And what it has done, it's rubbed a little bit here, and now I have a couple spider webs right on the crease, right where it lays right here. So if you put bolts or anything up here, make sure you put a good pad, or it'll crack it fairly easy. If you look in the pictures of top wheels, they really show a good picture of in here of where the aluminum plating is. Go ahead and put a piece of aluminum all the way back there. You know, it's going to add stiffening to the frame, plus it'll keep a lot of bit of the crap just from flowing up here. And if you got enough energy to go with that, the little trapezoid hole where the rear end fit in there, what I would do is pop rivet a piece of rubber in there. So now the rear end pushed against the rubber, but water still would not come up. You know, it could be a very loose fitting, so but it just at least keeps water and dirt from just coming right up into this area. And if you've gotten that far, you might as well put aluminum right in here, all as much as you can along this side. You know, it's just added
Rigidity.
yeah, and it keeps that back area a lot cleaner. Now, probably what you did right off the bat was you gave your Snoopy away with your car. Not very smart. Go out and find you another Snoopy. That should already be on here. Crap. Turn it up. Want to look under here? Doesn't look too exciting, does it? What I'll end up doing is just getting in and driving away. Quick pit stop. Okay. I've done this before. Put the wonderful seat in. pads. And nonchalantly, without showing any effort at all, getting in. A car is no good if you have to work hard to get in and out of. Notice where my height is up here, and I am just barely looking over the top here.